Ofeke buru osisi eji wee tụọ alụsị. O chere na obulugo alụsị. Ofeke ịchọba alụsị ịgaba n'ihu Chukwu. Ofeke bulu nke agwụ olo na obulugo agwụ. Ịchọba agwụ chọga agwụ na be Chukwu. Ihe a bụ ilu ndị Igbo tụrụ. The meaning of this aphorism is that when the priest, the pastors, the reverend, they go to a deity, an ancestral landmark in Igbo land, and they decide to destroy an erected shrine in the name of destroying the deity, they are not destroying that deity. You are only destroying the physical effigies, the physical representations of such deity. Because if you're looking for the essence of that deity to destroy, you would have to look for the essence of that deity in the house of God. That's the Igbo perception on deities. This is to tell Ndi Igbo worldwide that what we think or we perceive about destroying deities, we are not doing it, because a deity is immaterial. They are spirits, they are essence, they are energy, they are consciousness. And you cannot destroy consciousness. You cannot destroy a spirit. You cannot destroy an energy. You can only destroy the physical representations of those deities. And even at that, you have not still destroyed anything. You only made so that that place does not really have, that entity does no longer have a physical point of representations where you can basically communicate with it. An individual that is aligned with that entity can virtually call that deity entity anywhere and interact with that deity. So why then do we go around destroying ancestral shrines, destroying things that make us who we are? Before Western and religious infiltrations, our ancestors didn't see effigies that represented our ancestral force as the entirety of what the entity is or what the entity represents. It is just an edification, a representation that can even be destroyed by the person that instituted it after he or she has passed through due process. So these effigies are known as Oposi or Obesi, and depending, because some of these deities, they don't really have any physical effigy or artifact, but they have halls of chalk or banzu, where supplicants can interact with it. Some communities in Enugu interact, or their own physical representations of their deities or essence are simply stones. Where they use that point as a face, ihu, a face to interact with. So when they bring the sacrifice, the animals, they just sit down there because they want to use as a medium to concentrate their energy. It's also a way of them bringing in their imagination, the concepts, the ideas that they have in our head, and bringing it into reality. So when they are saying, look at this, and they are pointing towards a direction. So that's the Igbo mentality, the Igbo perception towards some of these things. Now these effigies are simply to physicalize or to represent these divine forces, and bring it according to our own understanding of what the divine is. That's why some of these images, these effigies, when you see them, it looks like somebody. So they're trying to bring in, manifest those concepts that we have in our mind, in our imaginations. We're trying to bring them to life. That's why in Igbo we make use of these entities, these things that we use here. So the idea of Chukwu is more appropriately what Igbo refers to as Chi Ukwu. The Chi Ukwu here becomes the aggregate of all Chis, because in Igbo we believe that every living and non-living thing has an aspect of the Creator. Every animal has a Chi, a driving force. Stones, they have a Chi, a driving force. Now, when you now bring all those chis together, is what Ndibo now refer to as chi ukwu, the aggregate of all chi. They will now bring it and conceptualize it. We also believe that these entities, this chi or essence, can't be manipulated. Manipulated, when I mean manipulation, it's not just about something being derogatory or negative, but it can be manipulated for good and it can be manipulated for bad. Because when you see some people performing some kind of sacrifices that doesn't fall within the Igbo worldview, you see them, they're manipulating energy. That's why when I see church people go crazy, powers that be, which powers that be, what the evil man or the wicked man or the witch doctor, like I call them, are trying to use against you are just roots and herbs that are basically manipulating, and you think that there are some powers. That's why people that understands ordinary and all those things, when something like this happens to them, they don't go and sit down one place praying. What they do is to understand the cause of this thing, and they basically fight it that way. Fight it doesn't mean even when they go to deities, they don't go there to go and start praying and start. No, they don't do that. We don't do that. What we basically do is basically to also go inside that bush and also get herbs. That's our ancestors said. Dibia wolo also, onozo buru dibia. Kemanka, emanka also. Like, we should start using our head as in Debo. Like, I think one thing that saved me in this life is when I began to understand these things from this aspect. I stopped saying prayers of evil powers, because if you try to do things to me and you feel you want to do it through this system, I'll go and meet somebody else that also knows how to also counter. Odogwu Akataka, a good divya, said something. He said that what an Amosu uses to fight people is knowledge. When you're knowledgeable, an Amosu will know that you know what it knows, and it is going to basically allow you to basically exist. Because if he tries to fight you, you will know that, because the person is quite aware that you know what he or she knows. So if they bring these kinds of leaves and herbs, you can't bring your anonwebe. You can't bring your gilishi. You can't bring your odara. You can't bring your ijitani. You can't bring your dadani. You can't bring all these roots and mix them together. Put them under certain conditions with the help of the Divya, or of course, that even understands all this. So what the witch doctor, the Amosu, uses is knowledge. And this is why people lack. When you lack knowledge of the technical know-how, you're lost. You think it's some kind of magical powers, and these pastors and reverends, they use you to cash out. That's just the logic there. So back to what we're saying. Now, because all these things, the chi, oposi, and all those things are simply mediums. They are not the entirety of what that entity represents. They are not the entirety of what that entity represents. The priest can only desecrate and destroy those interfaces, but they cannot destroy what that entity is. They can't. I'm sorry, but they can't. So another interpretation to this proverb falls on the individual with impure minds and intentions, whose aim of tapping into these cosmic forces can be questioned. So at some point, that more never a spirit that stays here has basically left that place. It is because of the disgusting things that the handlers of such interfaces are doing. That deity can basically decide to leave that point, because Ochoro came back to it doesn't want anybody to destroy it, so it will just basically leave. Now, the same goes to these handlers that were called by these cosmic forces in Didi Bianda Womara to basically perform or to be intermediaries. But instead of them basically carrying out the functions or the duties that they were actually called for, and decide to use these interfaces for things that are negative and malignant, this interface, the essence, the entity within it is going to leave. And until that individual falls back in line with the answer that it is accompanied by the service of these interfaces, then the entity would now come back there. Sasigi no fekeburu okwago chenoburugo And what we know is that for you to basically be in the house of God, you have to be pure of mind, you have to be pure of body. You're not going to be thinking of killing people or hurting people or doing something that other people don't want. You just have to be a good person. The same way in the Igbo will also say that dibia na-akpa alụ, ọ na-akpa alụ, mmụọ kpọrọ ya, the spirits that caused him or her to basically do one or two things, they are going to leave and allow you to wallow in your ignorance. And what some of these people do is that instead of them to fix their self and begin to act right, some of them go out there and import some kind of a configuration or now, because they've refused to do the work, the needful, which is basically align yourself, get your things together, act right, do your service. You're here to serve people well. They go out and they bring in an ogu to replace the indigenous spirit that they are supposed to use to serve humanity. Now, Ndi Igbo will tell you that onye memma or whether I call ya onye menjo or nala akoro ya. Some people are saying which it happens, or the person will just lock his or her family in some kind of an existential crisis. That's the Igbo perception. But my knowledge of karmic debts and my knowledge of karma, what I tell people is that we don't have any force out there trying to hurt or punish you for the things you do. You judge yourself at the point of your death. When you die, you have this overview of life. You analyze yourself and know what you did. Now, depending on the level of your consciousness, if you grow yourself, if you're better, you can basically decide to, join and but because if you did not grow, if you did not have any life experiences, if you still have things that you messed up, you would have to come back and fix all those things that you messed up. So because of that, Ndibo don't really believe in this heaven and hell, this thing. But we believe that this place is all that we have. Imemma, it is in front of you. When you're good, it is there. You will reap the benefit. If you're a terrible person, you will reap the benefit. It is there. Life is just simple because good and evil exist. Now, I guess one of the reasons why our ancestors allowed themselves to be indoctrinated is that they know that some people are really, really messy, some people are really, really wicked, and maybe this idea of reincarnation or the idea of them basically suffering or benefiting from whatever they've reaped wasn't good enough for them, and they think that they didn't have to have some kind of a devil they would have to punish you, because if they describe hell, it's a terrible place to be. So when they have this description of hell, people want to basically attach themselves to that kind of, yes, because just imagine if somebody does something bad to you, you want that person to be really, really, really punished. So I guess it's part of the reasons why our ancestors, those people that allowed themselves to be indoctrinated, it was part of their mindset. As at that point, they wanted some kind of a cosmic godfather that determines who gets to be rewarded with heaven and who gets to be punished by hell. They now place it based on our action. And I believe that our action determines what kind of afterlife that we're going to have. And who knows? But all these things are just making it in this life are just speculations. We're just speculating things. But I prefer to understand things through nature and through how my ancestors understood things. But if you have any other outside view from what I just said, it is still okay, because you're all just, speculating and assuming. Because some people, we've not yet died, we are still here, we're just reincarnating, but we don't know, because at the point of birth, our minds, tabula rasa, then every child and every activity gets, it gets filled up with experiences, and we get to know things. But at some point, you get to feel strongly about something. It's as if something that you've experienced, something that you've seen before, you feel strongly about something to tell you that maybe what you're thinking, what you're saying is actually right or wrong. But nonetheless, I'm going to conclude with our aphorism again. Ofekebulu nkwagu, ochere no buruga agwu, echoba agwu, gabana bechuku, maka ebe ihu chuku ke ebe agwu no. And until next time, yagasie. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye. Yagasie.